Konnichiwa. Is that better? Okay. So before I was a photographer with Strobist, I was a photographer with the Baltimore Sun, a newspaper in the United States, for 25 years. I was a photojournalist, so that means you get to do a little bit of everything. And for a long time, I was an icon shooter. But I'm going to talk to you today about how that changed. At the newspaper, I shot quiet assignments. I didn't do much hard news. I didn't do much international travel. I liked to shoot quiet pictures where there were no other photographers there. I shot nature, I shot rural, I shot the places other photographers did not shoot. Sometimes I got to shoot interesting things, but mostly I shot quiet things. I shot a lot of sports. I love baseball. I'm with you, I love baseball. I shoot young people playing sports, but I also get a chance to shoot professional sports sometimes. Sometimes I shoot famous people. In the United States, this man is very famous, so maybe you have not heard of him. Ichiro. Yeah. I'm kidding. In the United States, when he traveled around playing baseball, there was a group of maybe a dozen Japanese photographers who followed him everywhere. Their only job was to photograph Ichiro. When his teammate was batting, no pictures. When his teammates were pitching, no pictures. Ichiro comes to the plate, 20 lenses pop up everywhere. So this picture is special to me because when I was processing it, one of the Japanese photographers came up behind me and looked at it and ran away. And then all of the Japanese photographers came up behind me and what shutter speed? 1/8,000th of a second. He's very fast. He's faster than a bullet. No, 1/30th of a second. 1/30th of a second. He's not that fast. So for 20 years as a newspaper photographer, much of that I shot film because I'm an old man. I'm 48 years old. I started shooting seriously in 1984, and I shot film until 1998. And these were my tools, my Nikons, or as we call them, Nikons. But for special pictures, my Leica was my baby. For special assignments, for family pictures, for the pictures that were very meaningful to me when I needed to be very quiet when I was working, I always shot with my Leica. In 1998, I changed to digital Nikons along with everyone else in the press. But still, I have my special camera. So even after digital, there are some cameras that are so special you cling to them even if they're maybe not the best for the system. You know, processing film when everyone else is doing digital is not really efficient, but still it's very important. But what I want to talk to you about this afternoon was how the Fuji X100 series stole my heart and became my special camera. So for many years, I was a Nikon photographer. And about a year ago, I started to change. I started to think differently. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. In the summer of last summer, a friend of mine let me borrow an X100. This was the original camera. This was the camera that was like nothing else that's come along in the digital age. But it was very familiar to me as a Leica photographer. It fit in my hand. My fingers knew just where to go. Everything physically about this camera I loved. There were some things I didn't like about it. I wanted the autofocus to be better. I wanted the manual focus to be better. But what this camera did well, it did very, very well. And specifically what I like about this camera is it sees light the way my eye sees light. So if I go out late in the afternoon, this camera can compress that and create those colors. I love that. It sees the full range of light, and especially in my favorite part of the day, which is the hour after sun sets, but before it gets dark. Photographers call that the blue hour, and that is a magical light hour. I mean, that's real color. That's not Photoshop color. That's what comes out of the camera. That's what exists in nature. So I became very intrigued with this camera, and I think of cameras the way I think of relationships. To my mind, a camera is sort of like a woman. You know, it is. There are cameras that you date. There are cameras that you marry. There are cameras that you absolutely love, except for this or except for that. This was one of those cameras to me. I was in love with it, but there were some things I didn't like about it. But the love matters more than the not liking. That's all that matters up front. So I started I started to become committed to the X100. And the first time I really started to become committed to it was when my family went on a vacation. Remember, this is my personal camera. It's not my professional camera yet. I'm exploring it. I'm getting to know it. I'm married to my Nikons, but maybe I'm dating my Fuji. Maybe my Fuji is like my mistress now, so it's a little bit dangerous, right? So I go on vacation with my family, and we climb in the Lake District in UK. We climb this wonderful hill, and it's about 1,000 meters tall. It's a lot of vertical. This is when I really start to appreciate the Fuji. I'm not an athlete. I will never be an athlete. I don't want to climb this mountain with 10 pounds of Nikons hanging from my shoulder. But when I get to the top of the mountain and my kids are already going ahead of me because they're teenagers now and they don't want to be near their parents, they want to show they're more fit and they're going further away, I can reach up and take a quick snapshot, and the file from this picture is going to be gorgeous. If I want to make a print of this that's 1 meter wide, it will be fine. And when I catch up to them and I overlook them at the top of the mountain that they've climbed and I make a snapshot of them, it's a professional quality picture, even though it's a tiny little camera. And now I'm really starting to fall in love with this camera. I'm realizing that my tiny little digital camera can produce files like my heavy Nikons used to produce. And we get to the bottom of the hill after we climb back down and we have a very much deserved dinner. And this is all happening like in the same afternoon. This is a day in which I'm starting to fall in love with the camera seriously because of the way it sees light and sees color. And now I'm just going crazy with it. I'm snapping pictures of my food, you know, I'm snapping pictures of my kid across the table. And here's one reason I like, it's not technically a rangefinder camera, but it acts like a rangefinder. When I pull it up, it doesn't cover my face. I still see with my other eye. And more important, my son is still looking at my face. I'm not holding a big camera in front of my face, which to me almost feels like you're looking down the barrel of a gun, right? Rangefinders are personal cameras. They're designed to be used in close areas. The X cameras work especially well for that. And they're so quiet. I love how quiet these cameras are. My daughter doesn't even know I'm making this picture because the camera's sitting on the table and I'm looking at the screen on the back of the camera to compose and to focus. And I was a professional camera snob for a long time. I'll never take pictures like this. Professionals only shoot like this. I love the screen on the back of my camera now. I love that. Mostly because I can set it down and I can take pictures quietly. It's not that she can't hear me take the picture. I can't even hear me take the picture. This is a dead quiet camera. Compared to the Fuji X100 series, my Leica sounds like this, right? This camera does not make a noise. And that makes the camera that much better because no one pays attention to you when you're taking pictures. When we get back to the apartment that we've rented for this trip and my wife is reading to my kids in bed like they do every night, even though my kids are still teenagers, I can sneak in and take a picture and I don't need to use flash. There's not very much light in this room, but if you can see it with your eyes, this camera can absolutely capture it. And remember, this is still the first version of the camera. This is the one that I hated. It's a mixture, right? It captures light beautifully. I don't know about the focus yet, but I still love it. And when we go out walking at night, if I slow down and let them walk ahead of me, when light is interesting, there's also usually not very much of it. This again is the blue hour. This is when the street lights are starting to mix with the ambient light. This is when we look for light as photographers. And we're walking down this road and we're going to something called a ghost tour in Edinburgh and in Scotland, where they take you underground and they tell you all the stories, the grisly stories of murder and betrayal and the ghosts who are around now. Well, when we go into the room and the only light in the room is a single candle 10 feet away, I can make a picture. It's not a technically brilliant picture. It's not quite sharp. It's got a little fuzziness to it, a little movement, because that's a 1 second exposure handheld. I don't have a tripod. There's almost zero light. If you can see it, these cameras can make the picture, and that's fascinating to me as a photographer. Now, I'm still not using the camera professionally at this point, but it's becoming like, I may be falling in love with this. You know, you're worried because you're still married, right? You're still married to your Nikons, but maybe you're falling in love with your girlfriend. That's a bad thing, bad thing. It's fast. So when I grab a camera and pull it up and snap, my very tired family at the museum doesn't have time to pose. I get a picture that helps me remember what it's really like to be on vacation some days. So over that holiday, this camera became very special to me. It became my serious girlfriend. And this is us in Edinburgh right at the end of the holiday. And that's me, and that's my daughter Emily, and my son Ben. And over there on the left, the little stick there with the pink top, that's my wife. And she loves this picture because it makes her look very thin. So I still have the old X100. It's still a great camera. I still have it. I can't get rid of it. I would feel like I was giving one of my kids away for adoption. And I took it to Hong Kong on a quick professional trip that I was going to do some work with Digital Rev TV in Hong Kong. And still, I love going out early in the morning. I've got jet lag. It's 4 in the morning. I can't sleep. Well, I may as well go take pictures. This camera's fine. And the palette of colors. Remember, Fuji did film for a long time before they did digital. They know color. They know color palette. They know contrast range. They know tonality. And they give me complete control in the camera. I don't even shoot RAW. I shoot JPEGs. And I let the camera make some cool decisions for me that I choose, and it makes the pictures look the way that I want. So when I'm shooting in a storm in the South China Sea, I know that the camera is going to preserve that color palette, the subtlety of that color palette. And even more important, when I go down to the tip of Kowloon, and probably the most famous skyline in the world is in front of me, and the light doesn't really look great until there's not much of it left, I can take that picture without a tripod. This camera sees in the dark. It doesn't have a mirror. It doesn't have a shutter that travels across the chip. It has a leaf shutter. It doesn't vibrate when you take the picture. And that alone gives you several more stops of range. So here we are, and I've gotten to winter. I just came back from Hong Kong, and I'm discovering Fuji, and I'm really starting to fall deeply in love with this camera. But there are some things I don't like about it still. I don't like the focus. I kind of have issues with that. And then I see this. The Fuji X100S is coming out. New specs are leaked. This was in January. I have to tell you some bad news. You have a spy somewhere in this building. You have a mole. They're leaking specs. You should find this. You should worry about this. Not really. It's fantastic when you leak specs. We love it when you tell us what's coming. It keeps us from buying a bad camera before the good camera comes out. It keeps us from buying a competitor's camera when we see what's coming. And I was so excited because I knew that they were going to make the things that I didn't like better, because that's why you come out with another camera. And I was so excited. 2 months later, I was standing in line in Dubai early in the morning, and I bought the very first X100S ever sold on the planet, and I loved it. And I know that's true because it says so on the internet, right there. So immediately, I went out into Dubai and started making pictures. I love the palette of this camera. And all of the things that I was iffy about, I don't know about the focus, with the X100, with the X100S, they took the worst things about the camera and they made them the best things about the next camera. It was blazingly fast to focus, and it's in focus. The manual focus, you can focus in light that you can't even see in. To my mind, the Leica M6 was the best manual focusing camera ever made. Until this camera. I love manual focus for this camera. I love that it sees in the dark. I love that I don't need a tripod to make that picture. That's wide open at 1/8 of a second at ISO 800, and it's sharp. This is my time of day. This is when this camera excels, and I'm in love with it. It was like everything that was so-so about the old camera was now getting to be fantastic. When I go back home from Dubai and I'm taking pictures of my family, it's not surprising that I can take a picture of my daughter lit by an iPhone. What is surprising is that I still have 5 f-stops of room left before I could not make that picture. I could make this picture in light that is 1/30th the amount of light. 5 f-stops is a lot. This is not close to the edge. This is easy, comfortable picture. This camera works in very low light. So the X100S started to become my all of the time companion camera. When I would travel and I would look at some place that looked fairly interesting during the daytime, I would think, what's that going to look like in blue hour? What's it going to look like at 7 o'clock tonight when it's starting to get dark? And I would come back and I would still be able to make those pictures. I don't have a tripod. I'm just very quietly shooting during the deep dusk. And even in the last parts of twilight, this is a 1/2 second exposure. The camera doesn't shake when you push the button. If you don't shake, it won't shake. Those rocks are sharp. but that's what's happening to the wave over a half second, and I love that it can do that. So now it became my only camera for travel. I'm still shooting with my Nikons for professional jobs, but the Fuji is really stealing my heart at this point. So when I went to Cuba 2 weeks later on a cultural exchange with the Santa Fe workshops and the Cuban government and the United States Department of State, this was everything I took. That's my camera, that's it. My backup is my iPhone. I've got a computer, that's everything. This is amazing for me, this is a transformation. And we get into Havana, and it's raining, and we all want to go out and shoot pictures because being in Cuba is a very rare thing for United States citizens. They don't let us go except for under special circumstances. And it's raining, but we all go out anyway. And my friend Brandon pops into the bar. This is how raining it was the first night that we got there. He comes into the bar to wait for us while the weather breaks a little bit. But I know that when blue hour comes, and when light and water combine, like wet streets reflecting, blue hour in the rain can be magical if you have enough light. So about 2 hours after I made that picture, I made this picture. And that was the moment that I completely fell in love with and married this camera. Because I couldn't have made this picture with my Nikons for many reasons. Number one, I look like a photographer when I'm holding a big Nikon in front of my face. Who are you taking pictures for? What are these for? Why are you taking so many pictures? You know, you look like a photographer. Number two, there's not much light there. This is 1/8 of a second at f2 at ISO 800. Number three, Nikons make noise. Ba-ding, 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 right? This thing just goes, listen, you ready? Here's how it goes. That's what it does. That's it. You don't hear it. If you're lucky, you feel it when you push the button. So nobody notices me. I'm standing over in this corner waiting for the light to get better, standing there with this, and that's all I've got. It doesn't even look like a camera that would be worth stealing because it looks like an old film camera. And I've taped it up to make it look even worse. And I put the shade on and I sanded the shade down. I want to make this camera something that no one gives a second look. Because with that camera, if I'm making pictures like this, I'm in love as a photographer. And throughout the day, the different types of light in Cuba, it just handles them all beautifully. And when the light starts to go away, and I get into my blue hour, now the sun is set, and things are starting to get interesting, and even further and further down, even night cityscapes, I'm still not using a tripod. I'm just hand holding. It's an amazing camera. It sees in the dark, and it sees in the dark beautifully. Even after dark. No tripod, just snap. So for the next week, this was my honeymoon. I was now married to a new camera, going out having a wonderful time. No pressure. This is just a photo excursion. I love having that kind of freedom. So this is my personal camera, but now I'm starting to think of it as maybe my professional camera too. And I have it with me everywhere. I try to walk 5 miles every day, and this camera can go with me and not make me tired, and it won't make my neck hurt, and it still makes amazing pictures. So whether I'm walking in the woods, or if I'm in Grand Central Station in New York City, and I see a moment, but maybe that moment is not happening in a lot of light, and they're still, and everyone's walking around them. They're the only two people in the world in this picture. They just got married. Everyone else is just noise. I can still make this picture. And when I go from here, maybe 20 blocks further north, and there's a place in New York City, if you ever go, Top of the Rock, 30 Rockefeller Center. It's a famous building in New York City, and for $20, they'll let you up top, and you can shoot the skyline. You can stay up there as long as you want, which means you go before sunset, you take the sunset pictures, you wait for the blue hour. There's only one rule: no tripods. So many people can't make professional pictures up there, but with a little camera that looks like nothing, I can make this handheld. I love that this comes from this. I don't want my camera to look impressive. I want it to do what I want it to do. So now I'm married to Fuji. My Nikons are still there, but they're sitting in the closet. So the one here, I've got the boss in the room here, so I'm going to talk just a little bit to him. I love that you make the same chip in all the cameras. That is fantastic. That respects photographers. That says you don't have to buy the most expensive camera to get the best image quality when you buy a Fuji. You can let your features be your choice as to how much you want to spend. So now I picked up an XE1. So now we're a family. and maybe we have a couple of kids, right? So now I've got different lenses, and I can take my wide angle shots when I'm traveling into Boston. And we have some natural kids, and we even have an adopted kid. We adopted that kid from Rokinon. So third-party lens manufacturers are starting to see how amazing Fuji cameras are, and they're making lenses for them. That's other companies saying, yep, you got it right. So now I can play with a fisheye, even though Fuji does not make a fisheye for their cameras yet. And here's another thing that you do that I love. You tell me what lenses are coming next. The roadmap. No one else does the roadmap. Thank you. Thank you. That allows me to plan. That allows me to budget. So now I'm using it professionally too. I've just gone off the deep end. The X100S has a leaf shutter, so it will work. This is during sunlight. The sun has not set yet, with just a couple of small speed lights. I can overpower the sun with small flashes just because that Fuji has a leaf shutter in their X100S. And I can shoot right into the sun with no flash and just a whiteboard near my camera to throw some light back into my subject's face and get this. That is late golden sun just bouncing off a card and going back in. I'm shooting into the sun. It's in my frame. Look at the contrast in the skin tones. I have not adjusted this picture at all. This is straight out of the camera and onto the screen. So this isn't a Photoshop job, it's just Fuji handling an impossible situation beautifully. Last month I took a trip with my family up into the northeast of the United States, and they know that their dad is a photographer, and they know that when you see light like this, my plans for the next 10 minutes are canceled because I'm going to be shooting pictures. And they're cool with that, and I really, really appreciate that. And as we're driving down the road, if I see this, I'm going to stop. That's why I drive. My wife doesn't like to drive. I drive all the time. That way I can keep control. And when the light goes further down, I can stop again. Even sometimes I don't even stop to make pictures. Sometimes I keep one hand on the wheel and maybe I make a picture with my Fuji. I don't recommend this to other people though. But the Fuji sense of color always comes back. Those many, many years of making film comes back, and it helps me because they understand the palette of color, and they understand subtle color. And yet I can shoot pictures in subtle light and still get amazing detail, and I love that. And when we come back and I see my daughter reading a scary novel for the first page of a scary novel in our little house that we've rented, and there's just one lamp in the room, I know that Fuji's going to hold all of those tones, and I love that. And then as we go out of the cabin and I look at the cabin across the way and I see, the way your eye sees light and the way camera sees lights are often very different. Fuji sees light the way my eye sees it. In mixed light, when those lights are all coming together, if I can see it, I can capture it on the chip. And when the light goes down even further and I'm starting to see stars in the skies and my kids are at a campfire down at the lake and I pull out my tiny little XE1 and start making pictures, I know that my camera can still see everything that I can see. And when that light completely goes away, we're in the very rural Maine. There is no lights anywhere around here, just the sunset. When that sunset goes away, you can see the Milky Way all the way down to the horizon. I can't see this where I live in the city, but we can see it in the country, and that's a very special time to be on vacation. And because I have a Fuji X-Trans sensor, I can photograph that. If I can see it, Fuji can capture it. And that is very important to me as a personal photographer and as a professional photographer. Arigato.